What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and if you're enjoying the content here on my channel, then make sure you hit the like button and make sure you hit subscribe so you can help decide what direction the content on my channel goes in the foreseeable future. Okay, what is up, guys? This is Rob, and today we are going to continue our series on Omega level and beyond Omega level characters in the DC universe. And today's video focuses on the Wizard Shazam. Now, as a point of clarification before we get started, the Wizard Shazam takes the same name as Billy Batson Shazam, and it can get really confusing. So in order to avoid any kind of confusion, we're just gonna call this guy the Wizard. Now, undoubtedly, people are probably asking the question, why are you not talking about Billy Batson Shazam? Well, the reason why is because in order to understand his character, we have to do this character. And the reason why goes all the way back to the idea that he's been around for 80 years. And so predictably, his origin has changed multiple times since his debut in Wiz Comics #2 in 1940. Originally, the Wizard was simply intended to function as a plot device for the character of Billy Batson in order for him to receive his powers. And the origin that we're presented with in the early days of the character, like many artifacts of the golden age of comic books, is a little bit silly. So prior to meeting Billy Batson, who's basically a 12-year-old homeless boy that was living down in a subway station, Billy had met a cloaked figure, and so the two of them boarded a magical subway car and traveled to an underground throne room where just this ancient wizard just sat hanging out. The wizard eventually tells Billy that his name is Shazam, and that he has been fighting evil for 3,000 years using the powers of the gods. In fact, the name Shazam is actually an acronym of the gods from which he derives his powers, explaining that the wizard has the wisdom of Solomon, the strength of Hercules, the stamina of Atlas, the courage of Achilles, and the speed of Mercury. A little bit of irony here, neither Achilles nor Solomon are actual gods. Solomon is basically a biblical king, and Achilles is just a really cool ancient Greek warrior who was played by Brad Pitt in whatever that movie was. I can't remember what that movie was called. Troy, that's what it was. Is there no one else? 40 years later, however, DC decided that they wanted to flesh out the old wizard's origin. So, in World's Finest Comics number 262 in 1980, it was revealed that the wizard was at one point an ordinary shepherd boy named Jebediah living in the land of Canaan. Now, after his parents were murdered by a group of nomads, Jebediah prayed to the gods not to be left alone. Hearing his prayer, the gods chose Jebediah to become their champion. And so Jebediah was renamed to Vlarim, which was an anagram for the first letters of the gods that imbued him with their powers. From Marsash, Jebediah receives strength. From Errol, speed. From Ribelevi, power. From Voldar, strength. From Eblium, courage. And from Lumium, he received wisdom. There's a 90% chance that I butchered the absolute heck out of those names. Don't care. Now, after Jebediah received a portion of each of the gods' powers, he was transformed from a child into an adult and was then tasked with using those powers to battle the forces of evil in the world. Now, during this time, the wizard displayed an insane amount of power. Just to get an idea of what sorts of things he was capable of, the wizard was able to create a prison called the Rock of Eternity, which housed the three faces of evil, a demonic three-headed dragon with magical abilities, the ability to breathe fire and corrupt the minds of others to turn them evil. Now, in order to create the prison, the wizard had to acquire a rock formation from heaven and one from hell. So we're dealing with a character who can enter and leave heaven and hell freely and bring parts of those otherworldly realms back to Earth. Why'd you want to bring hell on Earth? I have no idea. Also, in addition to the three faces of evil, the wizard also captured the 7 deadly enemies of man, which are basically demons that represent the 7 deadly sins, and simply imprisoned them within the stone statues, which are kept within the Rock of Eternity itself. Now, eventually, the wizard began to tire of his role as a defender against all things evil and began searching for someone to succeed him as a champion. His first choice was actually an ancient Egyptian man named Dwayne Johnson. Actually, his name was Teth Adam. Now, anytime Adam said the wizard's name, he be granted the powers of the gods that had originally given the wizard his power, although it would later be retconned that it was actually a pantheon of Egyptian gods that gave Adam all the abilities that he has in order to be more in line with his Egyptian heritage. Before long, however, Adam became corrupted by his newfound power, and therefore the wizard simply renamed him to Black Adam and banished him to a distant star. Now, after Black Adam was found unworthy, the wizard sought out a new successor and found one in the form of Billy Batson, who we mentioned earlier, who would basically be transformed into a superhero named Shazam whenever he actually said the name Shazam. Now, in terms of how powerful the wizard is, he once served on the Quintessence, which is basically a council of the most powerful beings in the DC universe that included Zeus, Ganthet of the Guardians of the Universe, Highfather, and the Phantom Stranger serving alongside the wizard. Now, the function of this group was basically just to monitor everything that was going on in the DC universe to ensure that order is maintained. But they don't really interfere very often and usually just observe at a distance and only interfere when absolutely necessary. Now, the concept of the Octessence was first introduced during the 1996 Kingdom Come series, which exists outside the main DC continuity, but they were later brought into the main continuity as part of Grant Morrison's run on JLA, or Justice League of America. So we can simply tell just by the fact that the Wizard is present on the Council that he's among the upper echelon of characters in the DC universe in terms of power, as he's placed here among those beings that are considered to be legitimate gods. Now, as for what powers the Wizard possesses, well, like most characters who are going to be classified as Omega level or beyond, his powers are pretty much anything he wants them to be. And I literally don't say that to be lazy, that's the way it is. Since the Wizard's powers are derived from divine sources, he's not bound by any of the limitations of humanity, meaning that he can survive without air, water, or food. Of course, he also has your standard superhuman abilities like strength, speed, agility, stamina, and of course he can fly. He has an accelerated healing factor. He's virtually invulnerable to harm through either physical or magical means. He can teleport. He has a crazy amount of willpower that allows him to persevere in the most dire of situations and has divine guidance that help him to make decisions that will turn out in his benefit. The Wizard is omnipresent, meaning he can be in multiple places at one time, as well as omniscient, meaning that he knows everything that he wants to know, and he can also read and manipulate the minds of others. He's almost completely omnipotent due to how advanced he is in the mystic arts, and because he's been around for 9,000 years, we can assume that he's basically ageless. Now, the reason why I say ageless is because while he probably would live forever if left to his own devices, that does not mean that he cannot be killed. In fact, during the Days of Vengeance miniseries written by Bill Willingham in 2005, we saw an epic battle between the Wizard and another of DC's most powerful entities, the Spectre, who basically serves as God's arm of vengeance within the DC universe. There was a video previously where I referred to the Spectre as like the arm of God's wrath or something like that. That is not the Spectre. That is somebody else. I can't remember what their name is, and they basically took over the body of Maxwell Lord during the events of Justice League versus Suicide Squad. It's really weird. And so while eventually the Wizard got the better of the Spectre and appeared to have defeated him, the Spectre was able to revive himself and kill the Wizard by siphoning off his power. And so because of this, we know that the Wizard can be killed, at least by other insanely powerful beings. However, we're only going to draw this conclusion insofar as we're referring to the Wizard's physical body, as we later learn that the Wizard's spirit had survived but had been trapped within the Rock of Finality, which is pretty much the polar opposite of the Rock of Eternity. Now, with the help of the Flash Jay Garrick, Billy Batson releases the Wizard from the Rock, and he's fully restored when Black Adam gives the Wizard his power so that the Wizard can save his wife. Now, the funny thing is that's really all we see when it comes to the Wizard before the New 52, when DC effectively rebooted their entire continuity. But his depiction during the New 52 is actually a little bit different. In his first New 52 appearances, he simply just shows up as one of several wizards who are on a council of wizards that exists to control the magic on Earth and punish those who abuse it. The only other time that we saw him besides that was during Darkseid War, when it's revealed that he's actually a god named Mammurgan who enlists a whole new pantheon of gods to empower Billy Batson. But again, this guy is kind of crazy in terms of his abilities. The problem is that when it comes to the Wizard, his appearances are for the most part limited, because remember, when it came to the Wizard as a character, the star of the comic was Billy Batson, not really the Wizard himself. But I thought it'd be kind of cool to do this, dip my hand in a more obscure character to see what happens. It's kind of one of those weird situations. But if you guys are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, and yeah, post down in the comment section. Let me know who you guys want me to do next. Most likely we might transition back to a Marvel character real quick, and then we'll jump back over to DC. What I'd like to do is get in the habit of alternating. So one Marvel, one DC, one Marvel, one DC, grab some other characters from like Valiant, Image, do like an Omega level mutants, or I'm sorry, an Omega level character like Spawn or something along those lines. But let me know what you guys want to see, and I will catch you all later. Peace.